Okay, we're here, April 28th. It is episode seven. Seven? Yeah. Episode seven, almost at the 2 month mark. Busy week with albums, and we're both very excited to talk about them because one in particular knocked our socks off. Um, Brett, we have to start with Cold Years because
Yes, we do.
I don't even know where this band came from, and their album is all I could listen to.
So, as you know, I'm a contributor to Chorus FM, occasionally doing some retrospectives and reviews for them. So, there's been a lot of talk about this one coming out for the past couple months. But the day it dropped, like talk over there exploded. And then it was all over Twitter. And then I saw like a bunch of people just tweeting out links to the record. I'm like, if it's really that good, I have to listen. So I hit play on track one. Because the tweet I saw was like, wow, this could be our generation's American Idiot. I'm like, that's like, I don't know if you're being dramatic there. Like that's some really high praise for a band I never heard of before.
Yeah, that's a big thing to just put out there a few
Yeah.
hours into a debut or release, rather.
Like comparing it to Green Day's one of their magnum opuses, I guess we can call it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then you hear 32 play and you're just blown away and you're like, okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
It's a record that sounds gigantic.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's honestly, it's hard for me to put into words. Like I feel like you have to go listen to it to get it.
It's like, yeah, no, I'm with you. It is a huge, massive sounding album. It's like American Idiot, some Black Parade vibes, and then like all being sung by like the Gaslight Anthem almost. Like,
Yep, you nailed it. I was gonna say it, like the lyrics remind me of 59 Sound.
Yeah, it's got that raspy like rock and roll voice going on. He definitely reminds me a lot of Billy Joe with his inflections and the way he sings a lot of his words and the music as well. But
the guitar strumming like is very American Idiot.
yeah,
Like,
yes. There's a lot of parallels
Letterbomb.
which we can get into. Yeah. So like Letterbomb was like stuck in my head all week from listening to this album. But it's okay. There's so many things. I don't even know where to start. But since we're on the Green Day topic, I will say my first listen, every song I was like, this just sounds like Billy Joe. Like at first it was I was a little conflicted how to feel because it's an amazing album. And part of me was like, is he just doing like a Billy Joe thing? But then even if he is, does it matter? Like if the album is great, I think that's all that should matter. And if it reminds me of another great album, that's not a knock at it. It's praise. So I got past that pretty quick. But my first thoughts, I was like, this feels a lot like American Idiot to me. But it's not a bad thing. I've decided.
And shout out to Craig Manning who actually tweeted that it's like an American Idiot album. So shout out to him for that's what reeled me in. So
yeah,
but it's kind of like in a way, it's like what Machine Gun Kelly did for like pop punk in a way, only with like American Idiot and like that kind of mid 2000s punk that they launched with that album.
Yeah, the whole time listening to this, I just kept thinking, I didn't know that I needed more of this. And I'm surprised now in hindsight that it took someone this long to do it, because those are some of our favorite albums. And it's been almost 20 years since one of that like style, like that pop punk / rock and roll / theatrical thing. I mean, if there are other albums that have been out since then, I'm not too like familiar, but it feels like I've been waiting for this album and I didn't even know I was. But yeah,
this one, it just like it feels bigger than like just any typical release. Like I know like we haven't really had this discussion yet, but like I feel like there's albums that come along, we love it for a week, the next release week comes out and we forget all about that album that came out. Like this one I feel like is gonna kind of stand the test of time for this year at least.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but
I'm trying not to either, but it feels like that gigantic.
I think it's my favorite album of the year so far.
Mine
Like,
too.
I I am singing along in my car, not knowing the words, but just wanting to like make the noises along with the songs,
The
which is
harmonies.
yes, which is what I do when I'm just like forcing myself to learn an album, not like in a bad way, but just I want to sing along with this so bad and I don't know the words. Googling lyrics, they don't even exist.
Yep, I
Spotify doesn't
tried that
have them.
before.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's so I can't can find very little discussion of this band like on Reddit. I read a Kerrang article that like at least gave me some insight. They're from Aberdeen, Scotland, and then their first album was a good album because I listened to like some of it today. And the first song on that was titled 31, which I thought was kind of
Oh,
cool.
okay.
Yeah, because the first one on this is 32.
I see what they're
Um,
doing.
yeah, so we'll see if they follow that idea. But it was a good album, but it was missing that massive feel. And I was reading that they did switch drummers between these albums, and the dude who drummed on this isn't even the current drummer in the band. Like they had like a friend from another band. I'm blanking on the name, but like he did the drums for it. It was interesting. And then he also moved from Scotland to um what's it called? Oh, so it's called Glasgow, which I guess is like a bigger city in Scotland. But so he moved there with like a girl and like basically left his home. And that's a lot of the theme of the album, which I'm sure is a theme for like a lot of our favorite albums, leaving home and like taking on risks and new chances.
Saying goodbye to misery.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a huge album. I can't stop listening to it. I think Jane is my favorite song.
Jane's a great one. And
It's
I like
really
the
catchy.
I'm like obsessed with the breakdown on like the album. Is it album name track? No.
The title track.
Title track. There it is.
Yeah.
Brain fart there. Where it's like
Yeah.
goodbye to misery, and then it's just a breakdown.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Goodbye to misery. Yeah, then
Yep.
it kicks in. Yeah, that's good. I like 32, the first one that we were talking about before. It kind of I think that's one of the songs that gives me Black Parade vibes. Not that it's like a similar style, but the structure's kind of the same where I think it has a chorus, but like it goes off at the end on like its own little tangent. And when he starts yelling like we are generation what is it? Generation overgrown, something like that, and then generation fuck it all.
Yeah.
And he's like that's a great one to sing along to because you could learn that in like the first listen. Anytime you could just yell like fuck in your car is a good time.
And it just has that build and like it sets the tone, like how like Black Parade does.
Yeah,
Like how eventually it just like kicks in, and like this song kicks in almost the same way
yeah, yeah,
where the
exactly.
rest of the band joins.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely sets the tone for the album. And you don't know it. Like, they could have a big song like that and fall flat afterwards, but they don't, which is awesome.
Now this one's good front to back, like we like to say, but this
Yeah.
one truly is good from
Yeah.
front to back.
39 minutes. Anything under 40 is like my favorite.
Oh,
And
that's a
this,
sweet spot.
yeah, it just makes it. You can listen to this real quick. Um, and it's great. A lot of the lyrics, like what I appreciate is a lot of choruses, they could just like repeat the same two lines, but they don't a lot often.
They tweak it.
Yeah, they switch it up, and I like that just because it's not like it'd be horrible if they did, but it just shows that like they have stuff to say and they're not just being like lazy with it. It doesn't, even though it's a little formulaic, it doesn't feel like they're following a formula to me. It feels like this is just the music that they wanted to make and it's what they made. Like, I don't know. It seems genuine to me, even if it reminds us of all these other albums.
It's definitely their masterpiece so far.
Yeah,
That's
I
for sure.
already was searching the site that shall not be named, T Master, to see if they were touring, and they're doing some stuff over in Europe, but nothing here yet. But
Someone's going to take them on the road with them,
yeah,
like someone big.
and the article I was reading also said they were big fans of Bruce Springsteen, so maybe that means like they want to play the Stone Pony. I
That'd
don't
be
know if that's
nice.
like a stretch, but
I thought you were
I
gonna say
could
like
see
they
it.
like Bruce is gonna take him on the road.
I mean that'd be cool. Except
He's also
it'd be way harder to see them if they're touring with
yeah.
Bruce. I'd rather them just tour by themselves, or I mean, who knows if they could even do a headline tour over here? Like they haven't done it yet, so
This album could launch them to that, but it'd be like club venues probably, which is right up our alley. But
yeah, yeah, I would love that. But it feels like we're in at the ground floor for the most part. They only have one album before this that isn't nearly, maybe it looks like two actually, now that I'm looking at
the
Spotify.
Paradise, what's the
Paradise and Death Chasers.
yep.
So I'll have to give those some listens, but for now, like I've been struggling to come off this album. It's all I want to listen to.
I'm the same way. But I'm sure I'll get hooked on some of their past stuff too once it clicks.
Yeah, because then once you're like a fan of the band, you you want to listen to their old stuff, even if it's not as good as like the album that got you into them, because you just feel like a connection. But like looking at their their last album, all right, so their last album, they have a song that has 734,000 plays, which is pretty big. Um, so
I
far
don't
this
think they're small then.
no, I mean that's a lot of plays.
Yeah.
But this album they have a song, Headstone, which I'd have to play to like hear to know it, but has 258,000, which is roughly, I mean, it's not like half, but like we'll just say half for the sake of it. And that's in like a week. So it's definitely on a good pace.
I think Headstone was the first single.
Yeah, I
Yep,
guess
it was.
that would add
Mhm.
up. Uh it's it's a great album. I'm
It
just
is
so happy that like
that
an album
that
like
it
this came
exists.
out that we weren't even like waiting for it or anything. It just like popped out of nowhere, which makes it even more exciting.
I like when that happens. 'Cause I thought we were in a lull till like Silverstein pretty much, but this was a nice surprise.
Yeah. And Silverstein, we like know what we're getting a little bit, not like a knock, but they're a band we've been listening to for a long time. We have an idea of how that's going to sound, and we're excited for it. This was just like, oh, some album came out, sounds like other albums you like. Maybe you'll like it, and we
That
did.
was pretty much the pitch on Twitter.
Yeah. I mean, I'll put on a few songs from any album. Like there's no reason not to if people you respect are telling you to check it out, or if they're comparing it to bands you like. So I'm glad I listened.
I am too. And speaking of bands that you recommend for people to listen to and like, should we get into our next album?
Yes, King Giz.
Speaking of the opposite of a 40-minute album.
Yeah. King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. Um Omnius, hold on. I'm gonna have to read it because Omnium Gatherum.
It's a
Yes,
good
you
thing Spotify spells it because like I can't read the album cover.
no, I don't think you're supposed to be. The album cover looks as psychedelic as some of the songs are. And these guys already have, speaking of like plays, they already have songs in like the millions on this album, which is just wild.
It's wild that a song that's 18 minutes and 17 seconds has like 1.5 million listens.
Yeah. And opening the album with an 18-minute song is just like that's big lizard balls right there.
It is. I love that song though. Like I was sitting there like enjoying like every second of it. I don't know if like Tools like kind of prepared me for really long songs and then I end up like loving them, but I sat there just enjoying like every second of that.
Yeah.
The
I
dripping tap.
the dripping tap. Yeah, when I put it on, like now with this podcast, we're making a more of a point to listen to a lot of new music. So I don't always know how an album's going to hit me. And sometimes at first it's like, all right, hour 20-minute album, first song's 20 minutes, like let's let's click play and like see how it goes, and like I don't have to listen to it all in one sitting. And I wound up listening to this entire album in one sitting because it was so interesting.
Yeah.
Like no two songs are really alike, or maybe no more than two. Like there's songs on this album that rap, there's songs that sound like Pink Floyd, there's songs that sound like Sabbath. Like it is so all over the place, and yet still has a flow that it's I I can't think of an album that this reminds me of. Like this is just unique, good, interesting music.
No, and like this was my first experience with them too. So like I had no like expectations coming into it. And like I couldn't believe all these albums were together on one album and it was by one band. Cause like, but kind of like what we get to with Goldie a little bit, like there's songs like that sound like the Beastie Boys and then like all the bands you mentioned as well. And it's just even like this one, like I know like we're on a podcast and I should be able to like put into words this album, but it's really hard to because like it's just so all over the place. But there's a little bit of something for everyone, which is like I feel like it's really rare, especially on an album that's almost an hour and a half.
Yeah. And I think if it was an hour and a half of the same songs, it wouldn't work. But
No,
um, they go from like just say like one of the songs like that we were talking about, Gaia, like almost sounds like a Tool song almost. And then the next one after it,
and
and
nothing like that.
Ambergris is like jazz fusion. Like I don't even know what I would call it. Um, there's there's a song called Grim Reaper, and it's a rapping track, but then
Yeah,
it just has
that's the
like,
Beastie Boys one.
and then it just has a flute that comes in and like crushes it. I was like, what am I listening to? And I am loving it. Yeah, that one was Beastie Boys-ish, and Sadie Sorceress kind of gave me like a Paul Revere kind of beat because it kind
It
of had that
did,
like
yeah.
do like kind of going, but yeah, it's just such a all over the place album, and it works so well. It
And then
it's
like not to
super
sound like a
cool.
noob, but like to like all their other albums sound like this because like I couldn't stop listening to this one, so I didn't really get to dig into their catalog as much.
I can't even tell you because I am a new fan as well. And anytime I've listened to them before, it's just been like hitting shuffle or like going to like This Is King Gizzard and just like letting stuff play. They definitely lean into the psychedelic side for a lot of stuff, but then they have that Infest the Rat's Nest album we were talking about last week. That's just all like heavy metal songs. So they just do whatever they want and they do it well. And it's really cool.
It was awesome. And then not to get on a side tangent here, but so I saw they have like the song Gaia, and I'm like, why have I heard Gaia before? And then I realized it's a Set Your Goals song, Gaia Bleeds. So I'm like,
Uh,
what is Gaia? Like, why do people keep naming songs after this Gaia? And I didn't realize it's apparently in like Greek mythology, it's like the personification of the planet Earth,
whoa.
which makes sense for why Gaia Bleeds is called
Uh,
that because it's all about like how the Earth is getting destroyed.
oh,
So I
interesting.
guess that's kind of what they're going for here too.
See,
Maybe
I
I
thought
don't
it
know.
was I thought it was about beans, but that would be Goya. So that's that's a whole separate band.
Frijoles.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past this band to just put out an album like in Spanish or something crazy. Like these guys have no to say they're outside the box is like an understatement. They like built their own box and then went outside of it.
And they're blowing up now, like as Goldie says in very shortly. But
Yeah. Yeah. You'll hear from him on our interview. Our friend Goldie, who kind of he exposed me to this band. But apparently he's been seeing them since what do you say, like 2015 or earlier?
there's like 9 people in the audience, right? He said.
Yeah. So I'm like, thanks for the invite because this would have been nice to know before tickets were like $100.
Yeah, I think we missed the
But
vote on that on the cheap tickets.
yeah, but man, seeing these guys in like a Terminal 5 setting would be rad.
I feel like they could pull off the Fish, Madison Square Garden, show now with like all this with this type of music.
Yeah, I it seems like they have a big enough fan base. Um, yeah, and like if people just want to like get down and dance and like listen to cool music, like you don't need to be in a club venue for that. Obviously, as we always say, like smaller venues are better, but I think it would work like just fine in an arena.
That has to be such a fascinating live show too, because you go from 1 second from like vibing to like wanting to headbang with like the
Yeah,
next song.
and there's so many like Fish fans who are a fan of King Gizzard that I wonder if they like jam on their live shows, if they like kind of string stuff together. I would imagine if they have an 18-minute song, they're willing to like jam out on their
Oh, they
3-minute
have to, I'm
songs.
sure.
Yeah, like I just judging by their music, I can't see them as just being content, like just playing the song in a live setting. Like they have to do more. We'll find out someday. This tour they're on now was postponed a bunch, which I think is contributing to tickets being highly priced. So if we keep an eye out, maybe we could see them for like $60,
Yeah,
which
I'm
would be
definitely adding
fine.
them to the list after this album.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be like Tool and like Fish like had a baby and then like dropped in like the Beastie Boys.
If that's not a recipe for a good band, I don't know what is.
Yeah, right. We had another new album this week, a band that has been around for some time now, and they're still crushing the pop punk game. Bowling for Soup put out an album. Um, Let me get this name right. It's pop. Hold on, I want to get it right because it's a funny name. Pop drunk snot bread. Pop punk's not dead. Pop drunk snot bread. Yes.
And the album pretty much spells it out with pictures too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. And they're a funny band, but this album isn't all like gags, you know? There's some serious songs on this album and there's some funny songs and there's some songs that just like rip on guitar, which is really cool. They start off with the song called Greatest of All Time, just talking about how they're like top of the pop punk game. And it's like kind of tongue in cheek, but also I'd say not because they've been around for so long and they continue to crush it that I think they're underrated in the pop punk scene. Or maybe they're rated fine and I just slept on them for a little bit. But this album's awesome. Like front to back. There's no songs I don't like.
Well, I
Um,
think I agree with you. I think they're underrated because like they're a band, honestly, before you brought them up last week, like I haven't thought about them in a really long time, other than like when they were at Warped Tour.
yeah.
But it sent me down the rabbit hole. And like I've been listening to like Drunk Enough to Dance for like a week straight now. Because that album is just so good. And like you said, like they're not all like jokes all the time. Like there's this song Where to Begin that like I'm like obsessed with. And it's like a serious song that's not like your typical like Girl All the Bad Guys Want or doing a goofy cover.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but I haven't even been able to listen to the new album because I can't stop listening to this one. But now I have to, that you're saying it's good to front to back.
Yeah.
Good from front to back. There we
Yeah.
go.
You definitely have to put it on. And they have some serious songs like what you were just talking about. Like they have this one song, what's it called The Best We Can. And it's it starts acoustic. I think it's pretty much acoustic, but it might have some electric kick in towards the end. But it could be a wedding song. Like it's just like a beautiful love song. And they're singing from this perspective now of being grown ass dudes in I guess their 40s. I don't know how old they are. But they have some songs that kind of reference nostalgia. Like there's one called Wouldn't Change a Thing. And he's like, what does he say? He goes, I sang about 1985, 19 years after 1985. And then he's like, I'm still singing about 1985, like 36 years or whatever the right number is. And just kind of like recaps their career. And like, he has some funny lines in there. Like he's like, maybe I shouldn't have decided I was too cool for Green Day when Dookie blew up, and like stuff like that. Because
I
it's
like
like
that.
it's called Wouldn't Change a Thing. So like he's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have wrote Green Day off because they got popular, which I thought was pretty funny. Um,
Is Getting Old Sucks a joke song?
yeah, it is and isn't, and also, hits a little closer to home than I'm sure we care to admit. Uh, but yeah, they have some funny lines in there about like, my friends had like 2 heart attacks and I like have bad knees." Like he's like, there's one line where he says the room smells like Werther's, like those caramel like hard candies.
It's really specific,
It is really specific, but Nicole carries those
but
around, and I
accurate.
always call her a grandma for it because like, who carries hard caramels around if you're under the age of like 60?
And now you have the song to back up that point.
Yeah, exactly. And then they have like these little interludes where I wish I could figure out the dude's voice doing it because he,
A
he
pee
sounds
break.
familiar. Yeah, exactly. There's a pee break, and there's one he's like, "I'm sorry to interrupt this pop punk masterpiece, but I just need to take a second to like tell everyone to be kind to each other because life is hard enough as it is without us like shitting on each other." And then it goes into the song, which is one of my favorites, and it's kind of I don't want to say like a joke song because that like diminishes it, but the chorus, so the song's like kind of about like just today's culture, and like you're talking about politics online, and the guy's like, "Oh, I'm just telling it like it is," like all like kind of stuff you hear people say. And then the chorus just goes, "Kill a motherfucker, kill a motherfucker," and they play like this G funk like Snoop Dogg kind of like like that probably wasn't accurate, but and then they go, "Kill a motherfucker with kindness." But they just repeat like, "Kill a motherfucker," for like
Is it like Pretty Fly for a white guy?
a little bit. It just you gotta listen to it. Like when we break it halfway, like it's so funny. It just wasn't what I was expecting. But then there's like an amazing bridge that's just like pop punk like deliciousness, and like the contrast with this like strange rapping chorus just makes it like hit that much harder. It's just a great song. It's a great album. Like that one goes into Wouldn't Change a Thing. So you go from like this song that's kind of funny to this song that's super serious and like like nostalgic. Um it's a really good album. I put it on to listen just for the pod, and I've listened to it like 5 times since. I'm really enjoying it. And I want to go on this tour because they're touring with Less Than Jake at Starland.
Ooh, that's a good show.
Yeah. June 25th. It's a Saturday in the summer. So
Hmm.
I know I've been trying not to like book up all my summer weekends with concerts because I'm like notorious for that. And the next thing I know, my entire summer is like weddings and concerts. But I really want to go to this one. So
Yeah,
if I could find like anyone else who's down, I'm probably gonna do it.
I might be down. I'm
Yeah.
starting to get right back into them. And
Yeah.
I'm
Like
since this is
that.
like a slow album week, I feel like I'm gonna listen to this one all weekend probably.
And I feel like it'd be such a fun show. Like Less Than Jake and Bowling for Soup are some of the most fun live bands you could see.
Oh, Less Than Jake's hilarious live. Like they've been like some of the best bands I've seen like ever on Warped Tour in all the years I went. Like pulling people on stage to like play
Yep.
the trumpet or something, or
Or spin.
giving someone a haircut.
I've seen them have like a big wheel of songs and they'd have fans just spin it. They had like a boxing ring set up at one, like gave people blow up like boxing gloves. Like they're goofy and fun, and their music's awesome. Both these bands. So
It's probably a great time,
yeah,
or it would be a great time, I should say.
yeah. So I don't know. I'm hoping you think it'll sell out, or you think we can just like game time it?
I feel like that one might be a game time,
Right.
unless we're sleeping on like the Bowling for Soup fandom. Like I feel like we need a Bowling for Soup expert to come on and tell us if we're properly calling them underrated or not.
Well, maybe we could get Jarrett to come on from Bowling for Soup, and he can just tell us that they're not underrated. or that they are. I don't know. I
That'd be a
mean,
fun conversation to have.
yeah.
So I haven't thought about your band since I was 13, but
That's not true. I had tickets to their one of their shows with my friend, and COVID messed it up. And then it got rescheduled to a day. I had to go to a wedding. Surprise, surprise. What else is new? Um,
we're at that
but
age
but
now. Just
Hangover
getting
You
old
Don't
sucks.
Deserve was that's up there with like some of the first like punk albums that I owned. And
That's a great one
they
too.
were singing about beer before I knew what beer was. So like they were just like cool, funny dudes making good music. Like Almost is an amazing song. Come Back to Texas. See, you went to
My
Drunk
hometown.
Enough to Dance. I go to Hangover You Don't Deserve. 2000, wow, 2004. What a year for music. So much came
Great
out in
year.
2004. We should just like draft 2004 albums on episode.
Or if we have a certain guest on, maybe he'll do that one with us.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that would be fun. Um, what else? Um, have you been listening to anything else this weekend, or you've been just kind of like leaning into Goodbye to Misery and Bowling
It's
for
been a
Soup?
lot of Goodbye to Misery, Drunk Enough to Dance, King Gizzard, and I've honestly went down the System of a Down rabbit hole too after last week. Like
Nice.
their self-titled first album, I can't stop listening to because it's heavy and awesome. And then I did the back-to-back Mesmerize and Hypnotize because I forgot how
Oh,
good that 1-2 punch is.
so they
But they're
released
so good. I
those.
wish they still made music.
They released those in the same year.
They did, like one came out early, like the first half of the year, and they released Hypnotize. I wanted to say like that November 2005.
Wow, that's impressive. I
I
love when
want another
bands
album
like
now, but
shake
I
it
don't
up
think we're
like
gonna
that.
get one.
You never know. It worked for Tool, so maybe System of a
It's
Down
true.
will jump on board.
We got the 2 singles, but I think that's probably all we're gonna get for now.
Yeah. I've been listening to Dear You by Jawbreaker
Ooh, you're going to that show soon, right?
tomorrow. Yeah. Back to the city. Less than a week. I've been in the city 3 times in the past week for shows. It's ridiculous. Hopefully I get into this show. We'll get to Fish after the break, but I have tickets to the show, so it shouldn't be a question if I get in or not.
That's gonna be an
Um,
awesome show. Like Dear You is so good. That book, the sellout, got me so into that album.
yeah, yeah, same. I was listening to it nonstop from that book. At the same time, they were like, "Hey, we're gonna get back together for a tour, and we're gonna do all of Dear You." So I'm like, they basically like, I have to go see it.
Yeah,
Like, it's a no brainer. Just
after they
like,
got so much shit for that album, and now like it's like beloved,
yeah, I
kind of like
was
Pinkerton.
I was reading like I not reading. I rented a documentary on Jawbreaker, and they like don't even like that album. I'm not even sure if they like each other, which kind of like makes me think about going to the show. Like, why should I go to the show if like they're not going to be into it? Um, so I don't know. I'm curious to see what the deal is.
I have to report back on that one
Yeah, if it's just like a heartless cash grab or what.
because they almost broke up like 5 times before that album came out.
Yeah, and then they did break up. They have said multiple times like they don't like that album. Now they're touring that album like multiple times a week for months. So I'm a little confused, but whatever. If they nail the songs, like it'll be fun. Eh,
Those
It'll
songs
be
are so
interesting.
good.
Yeah. Yeah, everything. Jet Black, Accident Prone. What's the one? The World is an Oyster.
Yep.
Locked in a shell. You like the taste of it, but can't take the smell. Weird lyrics. And then there's one
Fireman,
song towards the Fireman's great. Um,
Spluttering is good too.
yeah. Is that the one where he's just like, oh, this is probably bad scene. He's just like describing like a party the whole song.
Yeah, that
And
one felt like
like,
it was off the American Pie soundtrack.
yeah, that like I think has like lost me a little bit. But today I was just really listening to the lyrics of it. Like, oh, this is just like a cool story of going to a party and then watching your friend's girl like hook up with someone else and not knowing what to do. But yeah, it was cool. Yeah, it's a great album. So
I'm
I'm
sure you'll
excited
get
for
some
it.
24-hour revenge therapy songs too.
Yeah. So I looked it up. They don't play the album in order, which I thought was
That's
interesting. Usually when you tour an album, I mean, like Newfound Glory didn't do it, but they were touring too and mixing them together. Um, yeah, they don't play it in order and they randomly mix in like 4 or 5 other songs. So whatever. Like they close with Accident Prone, which is only the 4th song on the album.
it's a good show closer though.
Yeah, it really is. Because it's long and it builds and it makes sense. So yeah, that's tomorrow. Um, see how that goes. But should we get to our interview with Goldie, aka Generous Jams?
Let's do it. Let's get the Goldie.
All right, cool. Oh, okay. We now welcome on independent artist and friend of the pod, Aaron Goldner. He just released his 2nd album under his project Generous Jams. The beats are kind and the artist is kinder. Goldie, thanks for coming on. Congrats on the new EP. It's been out for a week. How's it been going?
Oh, it's been going well. Thanks for having me on. I also wanted to say thanks for the shout out on last week's episode. I was listening in for the fish talk, and it was a nice, pleasant surprise. But yeah, it's been going well so far. Just doing the DIY thing right now. So it's what it is. But hey, it's out there, so that's half the battle.
So what's the DIY thing? Like you release it and then what
And then
happens?
you just try to promote it the best you can yourself, without any real help from like a major or like a label or anything like that. But hey, maybe I'll track a label through this release.
Yeah, that's you got to just keep putting it out there and see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all you can do. So much stuff out there. All you can do is try.
Yeah, no, but it sounds great.
I
I've been
appreciate that.
enjoying it. It's really nice to like vibe to,
Yeah, no, definitely. It's definitely I always like to call it Adult Swim bumper music. It's definitely like a certain mood.
Yeah, that was actually one of our questions because I saw you mention Adult Swim in one of your Instagram posts, and
Oh, my hope is that I constantly tag them and everything. So it's mainly Adult Swim hire me, so I'm hoping one day it'll attract their attention and get that phone call or that email.
I could totally hear it playing like over a random landscape, like following like Rick and Morty, and then like a strange quote.
Yeah, well, exactly. Let's say it's definitely I feel like a big influence on me. I mean, I feel like from like I don't even know how old, like 12, 13. I've just been consuming Adult Swim like in mass quantities on end. So it makes sense that it eventually kind of came out in the music I was making.
I really hope they hire you. That's all I'm saying.
Appreciate
Oh
that.
yeah,
Me too. It'd be a cool gig to have.
yeah. That would be. That seems like it would be a lot of fun.
Definitely.
Um,
It's a cool atmosphere.
yeah, yeah. It's got. I would imagine it's got to be. Um, you've played in bands in the past, and now this is a solo project. So how's how is it working by yourself? Like as opposed to collaborative efforts.
Oh, sure. It's definitely got its pros and cons. I mean, I don't have to like call up a bunch of people to, come over and work on a song. It's kind of like whenever I'm like good to go. So that's like a pro that's like, it's nice to work on stuff when I want to work on it. But I definitely miss the camaraderie. There's definitely something nice to have some bandmates, and maybe one day with this project, I'll recruit some people to help play this music like out in the world, not just like on a computer. Um, but so it's definitely been a different experience. It's been a good one overall. I would say it's mostly positive, but yeah, you definitely going from playing with people constantly, you kind of miss like the company.
Yeah, I think we're all missing company over the
Sure.
past couple of years.
Definitely.
Goldie, I gotta ask, like, how stressful is it like doing it all by yourself? Like the whole DIY thing? Because like I'm an anxious person, like it gives me like anxiety just thinking about, writing, producing, recording, promoting. Like my head's just spinning right now. So like, what's that like?
It helps. I'm a control freak, so it's actually been really like rewarding in that sense. Because I would actually say it's been nice not having to necessarily have to have like everybody in the same place at the same time on the same page. I don't have to like. It's always compared to like you're in the nuclear submarine. You need everyone to turn the keys at the same time to have launch. In this case, I'm the submarine commander on my own, so I get to like I don't know. It's been kind of freeing, I would say overall, which I didn't think because I'm like you kind of. I would say I'm definitely an anxious person, and it's definitely I would say a lot sometimes having all the hats on at the same time. Definitely learning a lot about social media because I suck at social media, so that's been the biggest uphill battle. It's just keeping up with the Instagram posts or just even generating social media content. I mean, I feel like I've neglected my Facebook page for over a year now, but like let's be real, Facebook's dead anyway, so it's like as long as the Instagram is thriving.
They're both owned by the same thing, though.
It's ironic though, I know, but no one's on Facebook anymore, but everyone's on Instagram.
You don't want to appeal to the boomer generation with your music?
I don't think they get what I'm going for.
Well, you use some samples in your music, so if you just sample certain people or figures, maybe
I mean, on this last EP though, I didn't really. Maybe I took like an audio bite here or there, but I would say most of the music is like original composition at this point. I'm trying to move away from sampling just for legality reasons. I mean, on my first EP, there's definitely some like Wes Montgomery samples on there, but like I don't want to jump through the rabbit holes to get all that stuff clear to get on Spotify.
Yeah, there was a clip. There was some, like you said, like a clip on this one. I'm not sure where was that from? It was
Are you talking about on Your True Concern Is? It's,
where it just
Your
says like
True
the best time
Galactus.
to smoke is now or something like that.
Oh, that's on Trees Blowing in the Wind. That's a little soundbite from Seth Rogen on Jimmy Kimmel's show where he's telling this story about these like fraternity brothers who like invite him over to their frat house after like a show, and he gets there, they don't have any weed, and he's like, if there was any time not to have weed, it's now. And that's a soundbite that made it onto the album.
So did you hear that and then think like this needs to go out? Like how that's such a random clip.
Seth Rogen deep cut.
I guess so. I spent a lot of time definitely watching like Conan O'Brien and like Jimmy Kimmel and Craig Ferguson, all those like late night hosts. And I don't know, yeah, certain sound bites just like that story just resonated with me. So when I was like looking for something, I was like, well, I always thought that was amusing and thought it would sound cool on like a hip hop track. So that's definitely where that one comes from. But yeah, I have like a little computer file on my computer of just like a mishmash of random movie quotes and sound bites that like throughout like life that if like it sounds like if it resonates with me, I just like find it, snip it, put in that folder, then on a rainy day go digging and see what I got in there. So there's a lot of random stuff in there, a lot of things from just all over the place.
Is the Walker Texas Ranger lever from Conan in one of those?
I should use that. I should find some Conan bits. I feel like that's the one show I don't have too many bits from. I have like stuff from Letterman, I have stuff from Craig Ferguson, especially because he's got that weird skeleton robot. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He says a lot of weird stuff.
So for our listeners who aren't familiar with your music,
Sure.
you start with like a hip hop beat kind of core, but I would say to me it seems like more than hip hop beats. Like there's more going on there. So was that always the plan, or how did like your music come to be your music?
Sure. I mean, this project more than any project, I would say it's just the perfect marriage of everything I'm into. Definitely been strongly into hip hop for years and just always looking for little ways to incorporate into things. I would say definitely when I started out with this project though, I was trying to make strictly hip hop beats, but like everything else in my life, I overcomplicate things and then it turns into some beautiful mess. So then I just stick with it kind of. I mean, the way I would describe the overall sound, and this is like what I would put on like the old MySpace page, but I would say psychedelic / hip hop / indie-tronica. I feel like that kind of encompasses the soundscape. And I always will be like, it's for fans of MF Doom and like the Gorillas and like King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard and like definitely that kind of like, I guess like psychedelic music, but it's a full spectrum of stuff, because they're like you're saying at the fundamental core of it, like normally the bass and the hip hop, I'm sorry, the bass and the drums are normally hip hop oriented. But yeah, I'll like, you know, a great example of like all the marriages on this new album was a track called Salted Caramel, where like the fun, like the bass of it sounds like some sort of dance beat, but then on top of it's this like almost like MGMT kind of like synth thing going on. That's like, I guess Gorilla-esque too, you know, but you know, so it's definitely like a marriage, I would say. It's definitely a nice like little parfait of all these different things I'm just into. And I just, you know, it comes naturally into the mix.
You mentioned the synth things. The sounds on this album, are they all from a computer? Are you playing instruments? Like what, how does it work? Because there's so many different noises
Sure.
happening.
Most of it these days is computer based, but there's definitely a couple of like real like me playing the bass on some tracks. There's one track called Blue Dream. I'm actually playing guitar on. It's my quote unquote debut playing guitar ever, like on anything really. So it's kind of interesting to put that out there because I've predominantly just been a bass player my whole quote unquote music career, you know. So on this one, it's like, you know, when certain parts call for it, I'll pull out a real instrument. But I mean, it's crazy with all the computer, you know, sounds that are available and like what sounds like good these days. You know, it's like almost like album ready right out the gate. So I definitely will just sit there with sound packs on my computer and just like pull out like the right sounds for the project, you know.
How do you find like the right sounds? Like I've never made like music through a computer before. So like, is that like a long, like difficult process trying to like mix and match or?
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of trial and error. It's definitely like seeing what sticks. I usually start with the drums and I'll build up from there. Drums, bass gives a good foundation, or I'll do drums and like a keyboard progression, you know. But yeah, so it's definitely a lot of like what in the moment feels right and just kind of going with it that way. But it's definitely like, I feel like I always say this, so a fly on the wall, music making could kind of be a really boring process because it's just me with a computer, you know, smoking a blunt, just scrolling through endless like sounds, just saying like, does this sound good? And then just also like jamming in that sound, you know, making like seeing if I could find a riff, if any ideas come to mind. Because if yeah, that's basically how it works. Is if I find a sound and I find a riff, and I can like kind of go off on that riff, that's probably how the sound's going to make it onto like the final cut.
I gotta imagine there's so many slightly different sounds that it's gotta be hard to narrow down. Like eventually you just have to pick one and stick
Yeah.
to it, right?
Definitely. And there's plenty of times where I'll find like 3 or 4 sounds where I like them all. And it'll be like, well, these could be 3 or 4 different tracks if I like remember them later, you know?
Can you record a melody and then decide you'd rather it be a different sound and keep the melody, but just kind of change the instrument to it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the beauty of recording in MIDI and recording on a computer first, you know, with like different like MIDI controllers. Because you can do exactly what you're saying. Is I can come up with a part, I come up with a riff, I can stick with it. If I'm not crazy about the sound, I could just, you know, hit the up and down arrow until I find the sound that fits with the riff better. But yeah, that's the nice thing about it's so crazy how music technology has like these days. It's a lot easier these days, which you know is a good and bad thing. But it's kind of great just to have that, like, you know, everything's available. Like if I want saxophones, I got saxophones. You know, they don't sound cheap and processed and like a toy. You know, it sounds like for the most part, it sounds like a real sax, or it sounds close enough. You know.
Oh, that's awesome. Are certain instruments harder to work with than others? Like, do you find yourself like, say, a saxophone, you can really just nail like a melody, but then if you try to do a xylophone sound, you're struggling or something like that?
You know, it's all about finding the right voicing for that part. You know, it's all about like where does this fit in the whole soundscape. Usually, it's like kind of like something that I feel like presents itself naturally. You know, I feel like if I'm adding a xylophone part, it's because like I can like hear like the grand scheme of the whole song. I can hear it kind of in my head. So then it's like a matter of like finding that part, if you will. That, and again, it's all about making sure it fits in there, you know, because I definitely have gone through that process where you overload a track with too many things, and then you kind of have to sit there and be like, well, what really needs to be here? What doesn't need to be here?
Now, Goldie, like knowing you've like worked with like all these different instruments, like different programs on the computer, like would you ever like consider like producing for another artist?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the grants, and when I told myself when I first started this, the idea was I'd like make a couple of these EPs just to get my feet wet, but then I'd use them to like lure in a rapper, and then I'd find that person and ride their coattails to the top, ideally.
There you go.
Yeah,
It's a,
right.
it's a winning
Yeah,
formula, though.
it would be great to work with different singers and rappers. I definitely hear that room for that, because that's like one thing I can't rap, I can't sing like well. I wouldn't do it enough to put on a recording and then release it, so it would be cool to collaborate with someone down the road and kind of like, just see where that leads to. But maybe I find someone I'm steady working with, or maybe they're just on a track. But yeah, definitely would love to produce for other people and collaborate with other people with this project.
Could you see vocals being added to these tracks, or would it probably be a new set that you'd make with vocals in mind?
No, definitely, because it's funny. When I first started making a lot of these tracks, I would like leave certain things out because I was telling myself, oh well, if I find a rapper, that's where the verse would go. That's where they would probably put some bars. But I was like, well, for the sake of just putting them out there, I'll fill in the space. But yeah, it'd be cool if like the right person and they had like a vision. I would definitely be open to like going back to one of these original tracks and like just making space for them, or just throwing the stuff out vocals over the top of it, seeing if it fits naturally.
Have you put feelers out there yet to find a rapper?
Not yet. I should though, because I live in Philly, so Lord knows there's a pretty big like DIY like music scene here, and it's not too hard to network with other musicians. So I feel like finding a rapper is just a matter of just putting something out there and seeing what see what comes back.
You're in like one of the most underrated music cities. I feel like there's so many good things that come out of Philly. I feel like it doesn't get its credit.
Oh no, I agree. I mean, it's in the real grand scheme of things, we got Will Smith, we got Meek Mills, we got like Lil Uzi Vert, and we got like the Roots, and it's like that. Oh, and we got Dr. Dog. How can I forget? What I mean? But it's like as far as the hip hop game goes, it's very like there's really no like. I mean, I guess Meek Mill's kind of big if you're into like that kind of more like I don't know what to call it, mainstream rap, I guess if you will, but. I don't feel like we have like an Eminem. We don't have like a Wu-Tang Clan, or I guess I don't know. It's hard to say that with the Roots, because the Roots are,
sure.
Obviously they're known, they're a commodity, they're great hip hop and influential and everything. But yeah, Philly's definitely doesn't feel like it gets its credit in the grand scheme of things. And what's cool about here is there's like literally a music scene for everything. There's metal, there's hip hop, there's rock, there's bluegrass. There's country, it's great. There's crazy synth, DJs and stuff like that. So it's definitely a nice melting pot for if you're into music. There's something for you here.
Yeah, sounds like you got your pick if you wanna collaborate.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it's just a matter of just getting out there, going to shows, talking to other musicians. That's half the battle. It's just talking to people.
Can you see yourself? I know you mentioned before maybe flushing these songs out with a band, but could you see yourself maybe with your laptop and some speakers, like bumping it live somewhere?
Yeah, actually, it's funny. I was like, if I ever get asked to, because it's gonna probably be a little bit before I can get a real band together for this stuff. I was like, definitely go hook up my computer somewhere. I know this. He's like, I guess we call a visual artist, but like, I would totally try to hire him for the night to just come with his projector and like his crazy bank of visuals, just like do something while the music plays. Because then it's like, because I've always been someone who criticizes people who just show up with a laptop and hit play, and it's like. I acknowledge that in the moment that
how the turntables
doing it, because it would be, yeah, exactly, completely. But that's why I'm like, let me get this halfway. Like, I'll still provide a show. I just won't be the one creating the show. I'll just be creating the soundtrack to the show. It'll be almost like a movie,
Yeah, group effort. Speaking of visuals, the album art was super cool. I know it's a nod to Burn After Reading you mentioned, and like it looks it. Obviously, that's what you're going for.
I didn't really hide George Clooney, everybody.
Was did you work with an artist and just tell them like this is what I want, or did they kind of come up with it?
No, yeah. So I definitely would say the name came first, because it was just one of those like you're having a conversation, and the idea of smoke after eating came out, and I was like, I like how that sounds. And then the vision, and literally the album came right afterwards. I was like, oh, it'd be cool to play off of Burn After Reading. So funny enough, it was a kind of a random like happenstance how I met the artist for this. I was on Reddit and I saw someone posting on the Twin Peaks subreddit like fan art, and I was like, I really like this person's style. Let me see like what are the chances this is like someone who does art like regularly, or is this like a one-off piece. So I clicked on their profile, and their whole profile was literally just like mashup art, and it was like, for example, there's this Replacements albums called Let It Be, where they're all sitting on a rooftop, but then it had the Beatles sitting on the rooftop, because they also have an album called Let It Be. But it was like stuff like that. She was like stuff referencing like Wes Anderson movies. And I was like, all right, she clearly is into the same stuff I'm into. I like her style. Let me just send her a message, see if she'd be open to it. And she was like very much down with especially because I told her the concept up front. And I was like, this is what I'm looking for. can you help? Like, I think your style would suit this really well. And clearly, the rest is history because it's definitely, she knocked it out of the park. And, Samantha Miller, just giving her a shout out, say Sam Bam Arts on Instagram. Definitely, glad she hooked me up with the awesome piece.
That's awesome. Nick and I were just talking like a couple episodes ago, about how we want to have an album artist on sometime, because like there's so many great album covers out there and so many artists that are making like just really cool things in music. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, coming back to Philly, there's a lot of great artists here, but like in the visual set, like, a lot of painters and stuff like that. So in those same music like groups on Facebook and stuff like that, you'll definitely see a lot of artists like, putting their portfolios out there. So, it's definitely nice to connect with other local artists who's also trying to make it, and just kind of have that like camaraderie of like, let's do this together, teamwork,
artists helping artists.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. Yeah. Simple as that.
Yeah. How I was wondering this on an EP with no vocals. How do you name the songs? Where do you pull the names from? I know, like, I recognize like maybe Blue Dream as a strain. I don't know if the others are weed strains, and
that's, I guess, kind of part of the joke there is so is Sunset Sherbet and so is Salted Caramel.
I thought that might be the case.
Those were the, I guess, the other bandmates in those specific tracks. Those were definitely the little Santa's little helper, So that's where those names specifically came from, because that's what I was definitely feeling at the moment. But Trees Blowing in the Wind, it sounds dumb, but I literally was like, what am I gonna name this song? And I looked out my window and you guessed it, tree was blowing in the wind. And I was like, that actually kind of has like a nice ring to it. Like, I wrote it out and I was like, it kind of looks cool on paper, like, so and then I feel like all these names are very like Your True Concern is, well, that's what the soundbite was saying over and over again. So it's like, seems like this makes sense. But I don't know. I also like on my phone having a notepad with like a bunch of random ideas written down there. So whenever I need like a track name, or even just a working title, I always have something to pull from there. Cause like, it's just like you're walking through life and like you'll hear like a turn of a phrase, you're watching something on TV and like a little, snippet of a quote stands out. So it's just nice to have those like on deck, ready to go at any time. I feel like the new EP I'm working on right now, a lot of the names are coming from that little notepad there, which is nice to have in those moments, because definitely would say sometimes you're just drawing a blank. You're like, I hear it, but I don't see it,
The creative juices are always flowing, sounds
Sure.
like. Yeah.
Hopefully. I mean, you never know when, exactly. You just never know when the muse is going to strike. So you just got to kind of be ready. It's like stand-up comedians where they walk around their notepads with, you never know when you're going to think of a punchline. Like,
yeah.
Just don't do the Rivers Cuomo Excel sheet thing where that's how you make music now.
I forgot about that.
The rhyme library.
I mean, there's websites that'll do that for you.
Maybe in a bind.
Yeah, right. I don't know. I like to think I pull a lot from like movies and TV shows. That's like probably the biggest influence, I would say, for just like random names and stuff like that.
Oh, cool. So the next project is already in the works.
Oh yeah. As I say, I got one track definitely done, and then I got like two other ones like in like I would call it the pool, if you will. They're swimming around, just trying to find the right parts for it, and then it's like, all right, just need two more songs after that. And I'm hoping to actually put something out this fall, because I've only done like April, and I'm like, let me get like a nice I want to do something for Halloween maybe, so maybe I'll do a Halloween EP. But I also I can tell you, if you want an exclusive here, you can hear I can tell you the new name for the next EP.
Oh, let's hear it.
As I say, it's going to be called Generous Jams Alone in Philadelphia. Yes, a nice little play off of Thelonious Monk there, Alone in San Francisco, which is like huge influence on me, one of my favorite like albums of all time. So I don't know, I just thought it'd be kind of funny. There's the album cover for that is Thelonious on like one of those San Francisco like train cars there. I'm like, Philly's got those too. It'd be kind of funny to recreate the scene with me on like a SEPTA, trolley here. So that's the game plan. So that's the working title. We'll touch base a couple months. Maybe I've changed it, but as of right now, that's the working title.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, just do a rotating album title that just every 3 months it changes. This way people can really find your music easily.
Yeah, that's great for marketing.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Definitely. Just try to keep it interesting. This is
Oh.
it. Digging the podcast. I was listening to that fish episode. It was definitely like I felt like I was listening, like I was like having a conversation, but you guys couldn't hear me, and I was like, so many things I would love to talk to you guys. Especially about fish, but I was like, I don't know if you guys are touching on the new King Gizzard album at all or not, but that just came out, and
Yeah, we're
definitely
gonna.
shout out.
Nick
That's
just showed me them this week, and I've been like hooked on them immediately.
Nice. Yeah, honestly, the new album too is one of those albums where it's like, this is a good. I feel like if I had to get someone into King Gizzard, I would show them this album because it literally has everything by them on there. It's got like their full spectrum sound. Plus, they're pulling out this like Beastie Boys style hip hop out of nowhere on this album, which hasn't been on any of the albums previously. So it's cool to see them like evolving as a band.
Yeah,
I think that's what wrote me in because like I love the Beastie Boys.
Very cool. Yeah, they definitely have that. Like, there's a couple tracks specific. Like, there's two I can think of. Right off, like the Grim Reaper is one of them. It definitely has that like vibe to it.
Yeah, then they have like the heavy metal vibes on like
Gaia.
Gaia,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and then
like that too. There's Infest the Nest is like
yeah,
Slayer like tribute album.
yeah, because I was talking to my uncle about it, and I sent him the heavy tracks because he's really into that. And then I followed up with that album. Like, you should just listen to this album because
those two tracks might as well be like extras from that album. Like, they would have fit in perfectly with the rest of that. So, like, There Is No Planet B, great song.
Yeah,
it's a good one.
The bass is killer, and like hanging out behind the guitar riff, the bass is going just as crazy. It's really cool.
Definitely. I mean, that guy plays super in the cut, but when you really listen to what he's doing, he's like not just a passive bass player. He's definitely very like. He's like his parts moving a lot, and it's like maybe not the most. It's not like a flea bass line, but it's it's definitely doing something.
Have you ever seen them? I know we were talking about trying to. But...
I was gonna say after, so I think in this order, it's like Fish, Primus, and King Gizzard, in that like order of the bands. I've seen them more than any other bands. So I got into King Gizzard in like 2013. Saw them opening for Mac DeMarco at Terminal 5. It was kind of a random pairing, but it was one of those shows I always say changed my life, and Jonah Hill was there randomly. So after that, I think like anytime they were in like the tri-state area, I would try to go see them. So it was cool to go from paying like $25 to see them at like the Bowery Ballroom, where there's like 9 guys trying to cram onto that little stage with the projection going. And it's been fun to watch them rise all the way to playing like the Electric Factory in Philly and stuff like that. I'm sure it won't be long before they're playing like, headlining Terminal 5 and places like that. I saw Spin Magazine just did a write-up on them. So I was like, good for those guys. They're finally getting a little, like they're playing Coachella and stuff like that. Like their moment in the sun is like definitely coming soon.
Oh, that's awesome.
You can to join you next time you see them.
Definitely. Oh God, they've had this one show in Philly. It's literally been sold out for 2 years since before the pandemic because they had to keep moving the dates. But yeah, I was gonna say next time they tour and they announce in advance so they gotta snag those tickets before they go on sale, kind of thing.
Yeah, story of our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I'm sure you guys know.
Goldie, this has been awesome.
Yeah,
thank you so much for coming on and talking about the new album.
This has been fun. I'm glad to pop my podcast cherry. This is my first like official interview ever, really. As long as I've been playing music, quote unquote, semi-professionally, it's my first like real formal interview. So I really appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah,
happy to be your first.
Well, something I'll always remember and cherish.
Thank you so much, Goldie. Come on anytime and we could talk about new albums and whatever.
I'll talk about other music next time. Everyone just do a Fish episode too. Give me a call.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hold you to that.
Yeah, right. Say summer's not too far away.
Better watch out. Brett's gonna like come down with a cold or be on vacation. I'll be like, Goldie, let's just talk about fish for like 3 hours.
It'll be a fish takeover. I'm down.
6-hour fish episode.
Yeah, right. What are you normally doing for like an hour? Oh man. Well, thanks guys. I'll definitely catch you guys soon. Keep up the good work. Loving the podcast.
Thanks,
you. Goldie. You're the man.
You're the man. Thank you. You too. Keep up the good work. Okay, thanks to Goldie, Jenner Strams, for coming on, walking us through the songwriting process. I love how he's just always thinking and pulling creative ideas from stuff.
That's and then just making it on my computer too is like that whole concept like new to me. So I feel like it's fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah, and it sounds awesome. Like he mentioned it, but like you hear like computer and you expect it to sound like old like Nokia ringtones, and that's not even close to what it is anymore.
You can get like a gnarly sax on there.
Yeah, love some gnarly sax.
Gnarly sax. Be my band name.
uh, so we have to get into a little bit of fish talk. I won't go crazy because I can already hear some of our listeners rolling their eyes, but screw you guys.
And Nick's held this story for me for a week now, so I finally get to hear it.
So yeah, Goldie touched on it because he came with me to the Wednesday show, the 420 show. I mean, what can I say? It was awesome. It was so awesome. Our seats were on the floor right next to the sound and lighting board. So we could see Chris Carota, aka CK5, aka the fifth member of the band, aka Justin Bieber's like guy, aka a legend. I could just see him working, see all these crazy screens he had up. I'll put a picture on Instagram because like the amount of screens and buttons he had, or like touchscreen buttons, was just wild. Like my hands are too shaky to even like touch these buttons. They were so tiny. But anyway, yeah, so we were in a row that was only like 3 seats, and then next to us was just the soundboard. And at one point I dropped just like my like hair tie fell out. It fell out and it fell like onto the soundboard, but like it's like a nice hair tie. It's like some of them are cool. They're not just like little black hair ties. So I wanted it back, and I walk over, and this was before the show started. And I asked security, I'm like, hey, I like dropped something. Can I get it? And he's like, oh, I'll get it. He can't find it. So no big deal. I got to walk onto the soundboard and get my hair tie. But I walked onto the soundboard. I was gonna mess with the screens, maybe spell out Jen Admission Pod
Hey,
for the crowd. But
swimming with the dolphins.
So that was
that video was nuts. I can't believe that didn't happen when you were there.
I know. So what Brett's talking about is on the quote unquote New Year's Eve show. It was the rescheduled New Year's Eve show. For New Year's Eve, Fish always does something goofy, like they do a gag, is what they call it. And this year they like had all this like smoke fill Madison Square Garden. They put like these blue lights throughout the whole thing. And there were just these like giant whales and dolphins like floating around. I guess they had some helium in it. I don't know, because it wasn't just like balloons or like small pool toys. This was like the size of like an orca whale. It was nuts. And then the stage had this like huge like maybe it was a screen in front of it, like where the floor would go, it like sloped down, and it was they were projecting all this like cool stuff onto it. Basically they turned the garden into an aquarium, and I was somewhere else. We tried to go. Me and my buddy Josh went in with no tickets. And let me tell you, not having tickets is more stress than I ever want to put myself through for a concert again. I spent 3 full days refreshing StubHub, a Fish Facebook group, SeatGeek, a website called Cash or Trade, and Reddit.
Just nothing went on resale.
All 5. No, things were on resale, but it was like $800 for like seats in the 100s, which I'm not paying $800 for really anyone, especially a band I've seen like 30 times. But seats, just prices were not coming down. It was all I could think about. Like even the drive home from work, like leaving my computer, I'm like, oh, I'm worrying about if a good deal is going up, or you never know, someone's just trying to get rid of their tickets at face value. It does happen.
but not on Friday.
Not on Friday. Thursday, I was following to see what happened to those tickets. And those tickets went from 400 to 160. So I thought, okay, Friday, it's New Year's Eve show, so maybe they'll go to like 200. I'll do that. It's fine. Um, just never happened. They never dipped below 400. They completely sold out. And we are just walking around outside the garden with like one finger in the air because that's like the universal sign for like need a ticket. And it was us and like 100 other people with fingers in the air.
Oh
Just
no.
no luck. There were some random like New York City street dudes who are like, "Yo, you guys need tickets?" And me being like the gullible person I am, was like, "Yes, I would like a ticket, sir." And he's like, "Oh, all right." He said, "I do like 150." I'm like, "That's a great deal. Two, please." And so I asked him um, like, let me see the tickets because I didn't believe him. But I wanted to believe him. And he's like, "Oh, I got them in my pocket." And I'm like, "All right, let me see them." And then he pulls out his phone, and I'm like, "I thought you were going to show me the tickets." He goes, "Oh, I'm showing you where the seats are." I'm like, "I want to see the tickets."
Yeah, that's not gonna.
And what I knew was that they didn't print tickets for this tour. It was all digital. So I knew it was full of shit. So I was just like, yeah, I'm out of here. So we left. Then I had some lady on Facebook message me Thursday, but I didn't see it till Friday. And it's like an hour before the show. I was like, "Hey, you don't happen to still have these, do you?" And she goes, "Oh, I was just about to give up. So happy you messaged me." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm sure you're having a real hard time selling these tickets." So I go back and forth with her knowing that she was just trying to scam me. And she's like, "So how do we do payment?" And what I learned throughout this whole process is you want to do PayPal goods and services, nothing else. Because if you do that, you can rescind your payment. You can make it right if the person doesn't deliver. So as soon as I said that,
That's good to know.
she's like, "I don't have PayPal. Venmo works fine." I'm like, "Yeah, you wish." And then I just blocked her. Um, so yeah, we didn't get in. Wound up going to a bar, meeting some other friends. Um, Still had an adventure. Leave it at that. But yeah, it was a bummer. It was a bummer, especially seeing the set list and everything they did. It would have been it would have been nice to get in there. And had I like realized in my head like this isn't just another show, like it's New Year's Eve, I probably would have bumped up like my price threshold to maybe 300. Which I mean, part of me is glad that I didn't, but I wish I was in there.
How much was face value?
Uh for the floor, probably like 120 to 150, seats around 150, 160, like in the 100s, and then up top is usually like 80, 90.
Not too crazy then,
Not too crazy,
compared to the
but
resale market.
yeah, I think it's just a mix of shows being canceled from COVID and people just like dying to see them, and then it being New Year's Eve in April. But even though I didn't get in, I was still like I was proud of them, Like I love this band and they are selling out every single seat in Madison Square Garden for 4 days to the point that me and my friend couldn't even get in if we were willing to spend $500. By the time the band went on, there were no seats available. So like they bring it and the people know, and I love it. And they still brought me an adventure that night, even though I didn't go in.
Would you say it was packed to the gills?
I think everyone had a whale of a time. On the 420 show that I was at, they played a song called Leaves. They played a song called Stash. They played a song called Blaze On, and then they played a song called Gumbo, which is the chorus is ain't no time to stash the gumbo. So they were like doing some weed references for the day.
They knew what they were doing.
Yeah, yeah. I'm grateful I went on Wednesday.
Seeing them on 420 is still really cool. even though like you missed the aquarium.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it was cool. The show itself wasn't different than like it wasn't like because it was like the weed holiday they did anything special, or I'm sure the same amount of weed was being smoked in there regardless. Um, but to like have that like little like cult following holiday thing coincide with like a stoner band was definitely a nice little treat. Yeah, it was great to see him. I can't wait for summer tour, Atlantic City. That won't sell out because it's just like free for all on the beach. So
still hoping to maybe get to one of those December shows if they do them.
yeah. Yeah. I hope they do. They sometimes will switch it over to Miami for New Year's, which guess I'm buying a flight to Miami. Nah. But yeah, if it's at the Garden, like 100%, that's like
Yeah.
home. That's home base for Fish. Like all the fans throughout the country kind of agree. Like the Garden is home.
Yeah, they're pretty high up on my list now, so I feel like I have to make that happen sooner than later.
Yeah,
Also for
like,
the podcast too.
Exactly, it's your responsibility. But yeah, the musicianship and like just you just got to see him live. It's so fun. It's so fun. It's such a unique time. Yep. So that was Fish. It was great to see him. It'll be great to see him again and again and again and again and again. We have a voicemail this week.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I heard it's a very good question.
It's a great one. It really got me thinking. I love when our friends get us thinking. All right, so here we go.
Fellas, love the show. First time, long time. Calling in with a question for you. Wannabe by Spice Girls. Arguably a top 5 song of all time. Definitely a top guilty pleasure song of all time. So I want to get your thoughts on what are the greatest guilty pleasure songs ever recorded, and what makes a good guilty pleasure song. You know, the songs that you rock out to, but you'll never admit to anyone else that you do? Tell me what you think, what you really, really think, and keep up the good work. Later.
Definitely trolling you a little bit there.
How dare he speaks that name on this podcast. So far, I feel like we've mentioned this song more than half of the episodes.
Like our podcast should be named Wannabe at this point.
I actually learned that there is a Machine Gun Kelly song called General Admission.
Oh, okay.
I haven't listened to it, but it exists. So yeah,
maybe a future theme song.
Right? Guilty pleasure songs. This is such an interesting question because it's something that I think we've all thought about and maybe all had different opinions on throughout our lives so far. What would you classify as a guilty pleasure?
So I have to say at the top, and I'm not shitting on this question by any means, but I feel like now that I'm in my 30s, I feel like there's no such thing as guilty pleasure songs anymore. You either like something or you don't.
Yes.
And you should own what you like. You have no shame. Like you shouldn't feel ashamed for something you like. If it makes you happy, like then no one should give you shit for that.
Yeah,
but,
unless you like Wannabe. And then you have trash taste in music and you can get the hell off my podcast. No.
That was our question for the week.
I told myself I wouldn't get angry. It just happens every time.
Like your face turned red at Wannabe.
I think you're absolutely right. Like I definitely went through phases where I thought bands I liked weren't cool anymore and things like that. And I'm glad I grew out of that because you're absolutely right. Like you like what you like and just own it and it's fine. But I think there is room to define guilty pleasure. So what I kind of came up with for myself is a song that if I say I like it, I feel the need to immediately justify why I like it.
That's a good way to put it.
And there's one that came to mind, and I mean there was a bunch that came to mind, but Love Yourself by Justin Bieber. It's an amazing
That's
song.
a good one.
It's got a killer trumpet solo. It's catchy. I think Ed Sheeran like wrote it or something, but I have said those two sentences following why I like Love Yourself probably like 20 times in my life. Like every time I mention that song, I'm immediately like, yeah, but there's a cool trumpet and Ed Sheeran was involved. He's kind of cool, right? Like I always feel the need to like explain it, but it's just a good song. I don't know. If you don't like it, that's fine. You want to laugh at me, that's fine too. I think it's a good song, but that's kind of where I landed on my own personal definition of guilty pleasure is you want to justify why you like it.
I think that's a good way to put it now, because that's like, again, you're not ashamed. You just have to feel like you have to defend it.
Yeah, a little bit.
But it's funny you mentioned Justin Bieber, because like when he had that run, like when Love Yourself and like What Do You Mean came out, like there was like group threads I was on with friends, and it'd be like, shit, Bieber did it again. Like, what do you mean? It's like, this is a really good song, but I don't want to tell anybody.
Exactly.
And like we all just like secretly just text about how good the song was, but like we'd never put it on when we were hanging out or anything. Or
Yeah, it was
like
like
we all just knew it was a good song.
2015 or
Yeah,
somewhere
2015,
around then.
2016.
Yeah, he was just crushing it. And I was talking to Nicole about it. And I was saying, like, is it a guilty pleasure or like a hot take to be like, I think one of the most popular artists of all time has some good songs? Like, I I don't even know like if that would, when we were trying to come up with what guilty pleasure is, I'm like, me saying that I like some Justin Bieber songs isn't like going out on some crazy limb. Like, he's one of the most successful artists ever.
Yep.
So I don't know. What did you have any non-Bieber on your list?
I did. So I'll use a recent example. Like I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but like I love that Olivia Rodrigo album last year. And like Driver's License was a big like guilty
Yeah.
pleasure for a long time. But even like within recent years, like I used to like hate on Taylor Swift. And then like her last couple albums have been like phenomenal. Like it really shows like she's like really talented, knows how to write a song. And I was just being an asshole, like hating on anything she put out. But she's actually like very good. And I don't think there's nothing wrong with me liking her music now or being like ashamed to.
No,
But
yeah,
like she was a guilty pleasure. Like she put out something I enjoyed. I'm like, this is I guess a guilty pleasure, but now I just enjoy her for the artist that she is and has grown into.
yeah, like people just making music, and if it's good, it's good. Or if you enjoy it, you enjoy it. It might not be like good by like, not calling out Taylor Swift at all. She's a great songwriter. But one I had that I think probably isn't a good song. Call Me Maybe. I mean, you have to like that song, right? It's not a song I'm gonna like go around advertising, but
People
great
swear by
song.
her too, like more than that song.
Yeah, she was on like a ton of like, see, here we go justifying. But she was on like a ton of year-end lists that year. I think I mixed her up with uh Friday by Rebecca Black, which is not a guilty pleasure because I don't
No,
like that
I don't like that song either.
But I think they came out around the same time, maybe. So I kind of like jumbled them up in my head. But yeah, that one's like not good. Call Me Maybe is like a great pop song. So is Weezer a guilty pleasure at this point?
Arguably, yes.
I also had any Cher songs on my list. My mom
That's
is
a
like
good one.
a huge Cher fan. So like Cher was like some of the first music I ever remember hearing as like a person. So I'm like, I have a soft spot for Cher. But again, not something I'm gonna go around bragging about.
You're not gonna put her on Spotify.
No, probably not. And that's the thing with a lot of these like guilty pleasure songs is I don't really go out of my way to listen to any of these. Like if I like songs, I will listen to them, but I don't have any guilty pleasures. Like you said, Olivia Rodrigo, like you were just into the album. You were putting it on and listening to it.
All the time.
Yeah. So it sounds like, yeah, you just liked that album. Like
Yep.
I'm never like, ooh, I want to listen to Love Yourself. But when I hear it come on, I'm like, hell yeah, this is a great song. And then I like rock out to it for a little bit.
What do you mean?
Is that another one?
Another great Bieber song.
See, I'd probably know it if I heard it. I'm never
What do you mean?
he has that song now about like getting his weed from California, and I do not like that song. It sounds very lazy, and it's just like the whole song is like, I get my weed from California, and it just like does that like the whole song.
That does not sound like a
This
good
is
song.
so bad. It's so bad. I feel like he probably doesn't even like it. Here's a question. Would you consider Creed or Nickelback guilty pleasures?
I was gonna mention Nickelback because like me and my friend group were obsessed with them.
I mean, All
In
the
high
Right
school.
Reasons is a
Yep.
it's a great album. Like, what do you
And
want from
Dark
me?
Horse right after that came out like 2009. Like we saw them like 3
Yeah.
times on that tour because they were touring with like Hinder, who we really liked, and
Yep.
Papa Roach.
They toured with Breaking Benjamin and 3
Seether.
Days Grace.
Yep.
Like, yeah, they were in the mix.
I still
Um,
enjoy Creed though too. Like I
yeah,
don't listen to them anymore, but like those 3 albums are. Can I
That's
say
what-
they're good? Because I
I-
really enjoy them.
they are like, I don't know when it happened or like who decided. Like I was talking to my uncle and he mentioned Creed and I like kind of laughed and he's like, what? I was like, oh, like I don't know. I don't think we're supposed to like Creed anymore. I'm not entirely sure like why. I don't know. I think you could make a case for Nickelback that they had good albums and then like they just kept doing the same thing
Yeah.
over and over and they became almost like a parody of themselves. But I mean, I think if you ask anyone who grew up in like the 90s, 2000s, if they were listening to like All the Right Reasons or what was the other
Silver
one?
Side
Silver
Up.
Side, yeah,
Yeah.
like those were good songs. I don't know. See, but like here I am trying to defend it. So guilty pleasure. Boom.
Yep. And I feel like they haven't put out. Then again, I really haven't listened to them, so I don't know if it's fair for me to say they don't put out good music anymore. But I don't listen, so I can't really give an answer
Yeah.
one way or the other.
Yeah. You could write like a whole like dissertation on Nickelback.
Really could. Even Creed too. Like I made the mistake of telling one of my fraternity brothers in college I like Creed, and to this day he's still like he's like, hey, how's Scott Stapp doing? Like shout out Whitford if you listen, but like he he will never stop bringing up Creed whenever I see him. But I don't know if it's a joke or if he genuinely likes them too.
Yeah, I don't know. But there's just certain bands that like became like big jokes and you're not allowed to, like, I definitely wouldn't go around like talking about Nickelback. But if anyone asked me
No.
if I like All the Right Reasons, like, yeah, of course. Like, that album was huge when we were kids. Like, it's just because then I was thinking too, like Backstreet Boys and Sync, like all that. Like to me, that's not guilty pleasure. Like we grew up with that,
Yeah.
and those were like
They're hit machines.
well written. Yeah, exactly. They were just like hit. Yeah, well said. Just hit after hit, catchy song after catchy song. Like I don't think anyone our age would call them a guilty pleasure. They would just say, of course I like them. So it might have to do a little with your age group. Like I bet people 20 years older than us would be like, oh, Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, like that's weird. But if you grew up with it, you grew up with it and you know. So it's all relative. But if you like it, you like it.
That's it. That's the big takeaway now in our wise old age.
Yeah. Wear that Nickelback shirt to ShopRite. And don't let anyone throw tomatoes at you.
It had so many hits though. Like if you like look into it, like it's insane. And they like everyone just shits on them all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. They were like killing it for a few years.
They were good live too.
Yeah, they put on a great show. Like, I don't know. I never really had a problem with them until
No.
everyone had a problem with them. But yeah, I don't know what they've been up to lately. Let's see. They put out a live album in 2021. They remastered All the Right Reasons in 2020. So it seems like the last new album they did was called Feed the Machine in 2017. And you know what? I bet it has some heavy ass songs on it. They
Or maybe not.
or maybe not. Yo,
Live
first
from
song.
Red
This
Rocks.
is super heavy. I don't know what you want from me.
On Feed the Machine it is.
This isn't bad. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Someone tell me why we're not supposed to like Nickelback. Man, what a turn of events. Because my friend who called in this question loves Nickelback. I like to make fun of him for it, but I have no basis.
I feel like it's all like a joke, but like it's not like what am I trying to say here? The hate on them, I feel like, is not that accurate, because like look at all the plays on these songs on Feed the Machine, like 41 million, 25 million, 24 million. Like they're still
True.
getting millions of listens.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not like a failed band that people are laughing at. This 2014 album has a song with 65 million. Wow. 184. Jeez, I wonder what their most played song is. Rockstar?
That'd be How You Remind Me, right?
Oh, true. That was on Silver Side Up. No. Oh, yeah. 617 million.
Yeah, that has to be it.
Damn. 607. But they had that one that I just read.
When We Stand Together.
Maybe I lost it. But the fact that they put out another album that had a song with hundreds of millions of plays. That's interesting. No, that's their highest. You're right. I mean, that was a great song. All right,
It
Nickelback
was like that
episode.
came out, and like Blurry came out in like 2001. I was obsessed with like both of those songs.
Yeah. I feel like Puddle of Mud sneaks by not being made fun of. And I like Puddle of Mud songs, so I don't know if they're supposed to be. But like Come Clean was a great album.
She Hates Me.
Yeah. Blurry, like you said, Control. That's a great song.
Control is a good one.
Yeah. To me, they were kind of like Walmart Nirvana. But I mean
that's a good way to put it.
You've seen them live, right? Didn't we see them on was it Shinedown tour?
Is that when he brought like kids on stage and they were like dancing in a circle? Yeah.
Yeah. He has like that kind of Kurt Cobain look and like raspiness. And their songs are like pretty grungy. But yeah, I feel like this whole genre like kind of gets a bad rep, to be honest.
It's because it's popular and people like to just shit on whatever's popular.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just still surprised at like how heavy that Nickelback song I just put on was. What was it called? Something the Machine.
Feed the Machine.
Wasn't that 10 years though? Unless they just both had an album with the same name. There's a lot of songs called Feed the Machine. Red has a song called Feed the Machine. There are, I'll just go through this real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 10 Feed the Machines by different artists on Spotify. We got to stop feeding these machines.
Yeah.
They're gonna get obese.
The machine is full.
Yeah. Put the machine on a diet. Starve the machine. On that note.
Yeah, that was quite the rabbit hole we went down there. Great question, though.
Yeah, great question. Got us
more
thinking.
like that.
Yeah. He said he has more, so we can get a little backlog from Palazzi here. Thank you for the question. That was a great run. And he's going to be so happy we wound up talking about Nickelback for 10 minutes. That was probably his plan all along.
Wannabe and Nickelback.
uh, please, Brett, I'm trying to have a positive end of the show here. Don't speak that name. No, I'm not gonna
Zipping my lips.
keep that name out your mouth. I don't know if there's much going on next week as far as releases.
I know once we hit May, there's like a ton that comes out.
Yeah, we're in like a small little lull right now. What was it? So Block Party has an album next week, which I don't really listen to much Block Party. I know the song like Helicopter from Guitar Hero, and I know that Blink-182 is fans of them.
What was that? The Glass song. That's like their best one. Where the drums are like insane. Breaking Glass.
Maybe. I'm not. I'd have to listen to it, but yeah, we'll listen to this album for next week. I love having an excuse to like keep up with all this stuff and listen to cool bands like King Gizzard, Bowling for Soup, and Cold Years. Goodbye to Misery. Put it on, listen to it, love it.
Album of the year so far.
Yeah, AOTY.
Like Eating
time.
Glass is the Block Party song.
Okay. All right, so listen to that. And you have to listen to
Bowling for Soup. And I'll
Bowling for
report
Soup.
back next week.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, that's our show. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Brett. Thank you, Palazzi, for the great question. We love everyone.
Love you all, and thanks again to Goldie too.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Goldie. Good night, everyone. Peace.
Peace.